Hi, so I'm István, Szoboszlai from a small company there, and we've been involved with GWT development since 2009, and during the way we created some common code, and then it ended up being a few frameworks that I would like to talk about today. So, here we are now, about 13 people, most of them engineers, and so just a brief overview of what we've done, because this one Jubilee there, we have done that in 2009, and that time with GWT it was quite interesting that we did so much design there, and so people really liked it because they didn't have the same feeling about it. It should be a good application. The other one is more like a common GWT application. Let's say energy exchange system. And what our main focus is actually is location-based services, and we've noticed on this market that there are not many good web applications, and we were really lucky actually to find Google Web Toolkit, because I really think it's one of the only frameworks that are really good for developing robust applications. Okay, and so this is now our flagship product, and this is a fleet tracking product, and this actually concentrates all those frameworks that I will talk about. So the question is why we wanted to have our own framework, because there are so many out there, but it's really like it was an evolution, and we just abstract these common components, and those started to gather up, and then we organized them, and then boom, some framework came out. And of course this is because we want to boost productivity. We don't want to always program the same stuff again, and it's like really how we want to do stuff, so our productivity could be best helped by our own framework. We know that the most deeply. And somehow we started it in about 4 years ago, and then we checked out quite a few frameworks, but mostly for form and table rendering and generation. That was so hard with GWT. So that's where we've seen an entry point in how we start to create a new framework. And also, I think it's a very important aspect that this framework that we use is really something to just it's a standard how we program in-house. So it really documents it. It's a lot better than having a written standard how you should code, but make developers use the framework, and that documents the framework, and then it's easier to communicate. And also it's like a lot of fun to not just always concentrate on daily problems, but more abstract problems. I think every developer really likes focusing on this stuff. So a small summary of I've chosen a few frameworks what we have that we'd like to talk about. So one is this, what I've already mentioned, is called Ineform. Its main object is really it should be really easy to handle forms and tables, and you have in every application that uses data actually there is always forms, tables, validation, sorting, stuff like that, and at that time it was really not easy with it. And then I think Ineframe was also before 2.4, so there were no activities and places. And I think we yeah, we used some other framework before, but then we ended up creating our own framework for menu rendering, page hierarchy, and authorization, authentication purposes that are actually really common stuff for every application. And the other thing is the internationalization stuff, which I really didn't like about GWT. So we ended up writing our own framework that is actually a server-side framework, but is really easy to use on the client side. Therefore, there's a lot of INE that you see. So our company is named Inepex, and we have a lot of stuff going on. And then for the fun stuff, we always use packs like game packs or something when we just have a LAN party or something, or have movie together. And yeah, INE is for the serious stuff, like in a form, in a core. So we'll talk about the serious stuff today. So in a form, at the beginning we had a project where we had to program forms that had like 50 or 100 widgets in it, and it was so much boilerplate that we just came up with a very simple way of describing a form and rendering it, and then we didn't even store that in a real database. We just stored it in a key value table, and I don't know what database, MySQL or something, and it was just really easy to use, and like we spared weeks of work with that. So it's a really simple descriptor, and this descriptor can somehow the rendering process is driven by this descriptor. And then so actually these frameworks are all open source, and not many people uses them. Actually, I don't think any other than us, because we didn't really have much time for documentation, or people just didn't really like our way of thinking. But we do have a example on how you should use this framework, and it's I don't know how you can see it from behind. On the left side, there is just an entity, a simple entity for a JPA, and there are some annotations, and according to these annotations, we generate all the code, so that these kind of tables on the upper side and then the forms on the bottom side, they are generated out of the box. So it's an annotation-driven code generation, and for this and for marshalling of objects, we needed to create an object model, a key value-based object model on the client side, which has given us a very simple reflection-like system, and so this makes it this enables us to render the forms and tables on the client side, so they are not hard-coded how they look like. Oh, sorry. So also we generate code for the CRUD command, and we have put in. We also realized that it's not good if it just generates something and then you cannot modify it. So we put in so much descriptors for each level that it's very easy to modify the look and how these tables and forms behave through these descriptors. And these descriptors are actually serializable, so you can also create forms and tables on the fly without you having to recompile your application. And it's very, very useful in modular systems where there is some function that a module just describes, and then it just can be a plugin into your application. Mm. Yeah, and it's also very important that so you have this model object, and there are more descriptors for each kind of representation of forms and tables. So you can name them and then use the one that you want to render on that specific application. And what I think is quite unique is that we handle many-to-one, one-to-one relationships out of the box. I'll show you some example for that. And so it's also in a form. So if you have many relations, we can render in a form any depth of hierarchy in these objects. We have some validation also, which is before GWT added validation to its library. Yeah. There is. It's also quite efficient because when you edit something, only the difference is sent to the server, and we have also like wizard forms and so these forms are rather objective with this describing these forms was that they should really look alike so that it's very easy to the users to use these forms, because it's always the validations are same place, save, cancel buttons and stuff. But in some places we realize we need really custom forms. So we also have a UI binder based template, so, and then you can actually very similar to what .NET does with binding properties. So it's a similar thing to render forms. Okay, so I would like to get a little bit into how you can program within a form. So what you've seen on the slide before, there is an entity. It's a company. It's a very simple example, and you really just define your entity. Of course, you will have getters, setters, and stuff like that, and you add annotations, and those annotations that begin with KVO. This is key value object, and these are annotations that drive our code generation system, so that it generates different code for different. And also the one-to-one, one-to-many join column annotation. Those are used by the generator. Actually, if it's you don't get something, then you can ask during the way. So and when we have this object model that we already have on client side, we call them assisted objects. It's like because we assist somehow how they should work, how they should look, and everything is stored typed in key value maps, and we decided to just have a few types like boolean, double, list, long, string, and this relation is that a bit unique, that you can define that there is a relation to another object, and it goes out of the box that you can render properties of another object that belongs to this object. So every object that will be rendered in a form or in a table are represented by this model. And so for this, I go back. We need to describe on the client side how this object looks like. So we have a very simple descriptor language. So we define each field of an object. We can add some validation in it, and it's also hooked up with internationalized names for each property.
Is this something that's generated, or that the program?
This is also generated. Yeah, yeah. And so you will end up in an application. You will have quite a few entities, and so for each entity you will have this object descriptor generated, and so that you can use it on the client side. We have a so-called object descriptor store. And from the store, you can get these descriptors by referencing their names. So every object has a name, and you can reference them by name. And also in this object descriptor store, there are, so for rendering tables, there are table render descriptors. They're also referenced by the name. There is one default that's generated, and you can create any number of descriptors. So in different scenarios, you use different view of the forms. So that will also be just when the application starts. That will all the contents of the object descriptor store will be synchronized to the client side. So you can access any descriptor. So yeah, the table render descriptor here is a very simple example. There are some more properties you can set on each column, but that's not the scope of this presentation now. For the forms, so to display one property of an entity, you need some kind of widget. It's different to display and to edit. So, and our generator, when you generate these descriptors from the entity, they bind to one type of editor form widget. And there are also other types of form widget, then you can change it. At first, actually, we experienced with a system that we had comment in the code, so that from these comments we would know which type we have, which part we have modified, and so you could regenerate it. But it ended up not that easy, so, variables mixed up. So, and actually, we also don't really need that, because you don't change an entity that much, and if you change it, it's not that hard to follow up on these descriptors with the change. Yeah. So, what we generate from a entity is really like when we don't use strings in the code. So instead we have final static constants instead of strings. So we generate a list of these constants, so it won't be mixed up anywhere in the code. So it's somehow this whole object descriptor model is dynamic, but still it references hardly references strings too. The other important thing is this company. Like the assist. So it's this example is from the company named entity. So it's company assist. There are all the descriptors, and you can extend that class with the other descriptors that you need. And we have this DAO query and mapper. These are helper classes for the CRUD operations, and of course, so with this we also solved the marshalling problem, or the serialization problem between the server side and the client side. And for that, so there's a company object on the server, and there will be a company KVO object on the client, and the mapper does the mapping. And the mapper is also that smart that that so for the JPA, everything is persistent on the server side, and if you modify something in a form, it will reflect on the whole hierarchy of objects. And there were some tricky parts in that, but it works now quite well. And for the data access object, you can always define your custom queries. We use a criteria query, so that's also everything typed, no strings anywhere. So perhaps now it's a bit more clear what those things are, the form and the table and the entity, and how those are generated. Perhaps it's better to ask now, do you have any questions with these forms and table generation stuff?
So your code generator isn't like a GWT code generator?
No, it's a we have a small open source project for that. It's an Eclipse plugin based code generator. We have velocity templates, and actually we use the reflection from Eclipse. So it's a problem that it only works with Eclipse. But yeah, because I know a lot of people nowadays like IntelliJ a lot more. So actually we have talked with Christian that we will find out better ways to generate code. I also looked in GWT way, and I thought that it's not that maintainable, the templates, and I did not find any maintainable way back then. It was like 2-3 years ago, and it would have been a very big thing to change all this, how this works. So the other topic is Ineframe. It's somehow related, but I will talk about this in a few slides later. The internationalization part. This is mostly for handling page changes, parameters for the pages, caching page states. And what I really didn't find any other framework, that we have a hierarchical description of the whole application's, so how the pages are related to each other, and so you can very easily render a menu from. This is also a similar descriptor that you've seen. So how you can render a menu from this descriptor. Yeah, and we have this also supports basic authentication authorization through roles, and some like you can define what your login page is, what your 404 page is, and stuff like that. And so, like on the right side of this very dummy graphic, you can see that like so this is the place hierarchy actually, and to each place you can bind a page, but it's you don't have to, because there are some places, like if you have a multi-level menu, then perhaps there are some menu items that only reference to the next level, and then so there are these redirector places, and it turned out to be very, very good when you wanna know where an error is. And this is a nice reference about your whole application, and it's very easy to find what page you had where you have to go in the code to find the error. So it looks something like this. Actually, in most of our descriptors, there is a very similar thing to XML. So it's a hierarchical node-based thing, and it also looks like jQuery, if you notice it. And so everything is typed, and you with these addchild and addchild getchild with addchild GC, you can see on the fourth row. that makes you go to a deeper level, and then when you say get parent, it makes you go up a level. So that's how you describe a whole hierarchy. And to each, so this actually composes the places, and then the places actually are injected, and when you inject them, you specify which page belongs to them. And so the red ones are the rows that you need in order to access the page. And so also the menu knows what pages it has to render for you with specific rights. Is there any question about this? Okay. So the next one is the internationalization, and as I mentioned, I did not really like these how the strings are stored in properties, and I like a lot better when it's in some database, or actually now we use CSV files, and then we see all the languages, and it's very easy to translate to other languages. And we also thought it's very important that it has to be modular. So for each module, you have another i18n.csv file. So you can localize it by modules. In your application, you specify which modules you will use, which i18n modules, and only those will be sent to you. Not so for a specific entry point, you will not use all the modules perhaps, but only a subset of them. And what was very important that we have, so all these localized strings still has to be accessed through static final methods, so that it can be used also in UI binder, and also they can have properties that, like for numbers inside the string. And we also provide some support for enum, okay, in English, localization. So actually for this, that you can use these internationalized modules statically. We needed to modify the entry point of width, so that before anything happens on module load, we have this in a module load, and then starts all the other stuff with the application. Before that, we already have we already know who is logged in, what right the user has, and we already have gotten all the internationalized strings from the server. And so the thing is that we have this CSV file, and we generate from the CSV file a simple Java file that you can see here. You see that you can, like, this company contact. It belongs to an entity actually. The company's contacts field, and you can access this name with this public static string company contacts method. And actually, what it does, it's very simple. It just references this public static string contact on the third line, so that this whole module, all the constants are there, and on the server side it's filled, and the whole object is just sent to the client side. And there is some trick with static field and initialization of this whole object before you start to work with before the application starts to work. That makes sense? Or okay. Yeah, actually, I don't know if I'm a bit early, but so this would have been it. These are the frameworks that we use mostly in our applications, and I'm really open to how this can be improved. So I think it will be a great time to share ideas about this.
So how do you handle formatting?
How do you formatting? Formatting.
It looks like you just have static strings. So like if I want to format a number, like the total of your order is X dollars, how would that?
So the internationalization,
Right.
Then we have in the string we have brackets for parameters, and then you just call these static methods with the parameters. So this is also so this file is generated, and when it has some parameters, we say company contacts depends on how many contacts you have or something. Then there will be a number, and then it will render the. So there will be some code that puts the parameters in the right place of the string.
So how does it know how to render a number or currency properly for
like
whichever
plural
locality?
and yeah, you have to it's some logic that you have to make. We didn't. So that you have to do that logic, different strings.
Do you call it the GWT internationalization?
Yeah, actually that was I think not a long time ago when GWT integrated this number formatting, and it was before that we have read it, we have written it. So
That was like 1.4.
yeah, I mean, but like this number, the plurals, it was not
Yeah,
there.
plurals
before.
was in 1.6 or 1.7, somewhere on there.
Okay. Actually, that was not that big problem as like the so many compiler, so many compiled JavaScript. We didn't do like that, so that's why we have written, and we just write some logic when we need stuff like that. So
Is it the same thing with dates?
sorry.
Is it the same thing with dates?
Dates. We have a quiet. We have another just small framework for handling dates because that's a very big. Actually, in these location-based applications, it's a very big issue because the date can depend on where you are, and it's very important that you show the right time zone, and so that's a big. And I'm also not very expert on that. That's a big topic. Dates. We have some solutions for that. So, yeah.
Is there any built-in handling for like validation and user feedback on the form level?
You mean like from the community or?
No, so I mean like if I build out a form and I say I expect a number here, but then the user types in boo.
Yeah, we have some, and this is also before GWT came out with the validation framework. So that's like here, you can see this mandatory is like you have to fill it out, of course. And like there is this custom this email on the for the email, and then it validates if it's a valid email. So you can write custom validators also. And there are some. It has to be between this and that. It's some kind of this. Not very sophisticated validation mechanism. Actually, when we render these forms and we send the so we from the form we render an entity and send it to the key value object. We send it to the server side, and the server can give back a validation error too. So it's of course it has to be validated on the server too.
Any more questions?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So how does custom announcements